Hey guys, welcome back. We have another playoff primer, the second one for y'all, and it is the Frontier League, and this is shaping up to be a very good contest on both sides of the bracket in the Frontier League. As we did last time, we will do again. We're going to break down the schedule and the bracket, and then we are going to go from there and look at each of these individual teams. We have for you now the schedule in front of you on the screen. You will see that it's very similar to the American Association. First round, 3rd to the 6th. Running the duration of the following week, the Tuesday to Sunday matchups here, it will be round 2, and then the final round 3, running the same length the following week. Obviously, same format of best of 3, best of 5, best of 5 in that order. Now, taking a look at the bracket, you can see Schaumburg's taking on Lake Erie, Washington taking on Gateway, and on the flip side, in the Atlantic, we have New York and Quebec squaring off, and then the Miners and the Valley Cats doing the same as well. With that being said, we might as well start looking at each of these teams, right? And we'll start in the West and work our way east. Schaumburg up first here, and this has been a team that's been battling with Gateway back and forth all year. This is a more complete team, I think, than Gateway is. Gateway was, and we'll discuss in a second, a bit streakier. They're a bit more undefined. When you look at Schaumburg, the offense is what pops off at you. They're not stealing bases because they think that's a gimmick, clearly, by only having 107 over the course of 96 games. But they get on base very well. They hit for power. They score a lot of runs. And it's not small hits. There's home runs, there's triples, there's a bit of everything here. So that is something that's definitely going to carry. I'm always more of a fan of offense, as most of you guys know that have listened to the show or listened to previous videos or whatever it might be. You know I lean more offense than pitching because pitching can't put up runs, but they can slow it down. Schaumburg, they allow their runs. That is what their drawback is. They're going to allow base runners, middle of the pack for their whip, bottom of the pack for ERA, which is concerning to me. They allow a lot of hits. That being said, I do think they're a pretty complete team. Are they the best in the West? I don't know, but they're certainly one of the best too. And that next round matchup when they get Gateway is going to be really fun to watch. Looking at Lake Erie now, the team that Schaumburg's going to be playing, same problem as last year, if you guys will recall from that primer, which is they don't hit. Not a single major offensive stat above 10th. And even that's T10. They're not going to get on base. They're not going to hit for power. They're not going to steal a lot of bases. And when they do get on base, it's a lot of singles and doubles. Not really any meat in the lineup there. Less than 500 runs scored in the season, too, is very concerning. However, their pitching is really good, as it was last year. 11 shutouts over the year. A sub-4 ERA on the year. A sub-1.4 whip on the year. They get a lot of strikeouts. They don't allow a lot of hits. Only 726 on the year allowed. So more strikeouts than hits allowed. Love that. The one thing that is their Achilles heel, as you will see with strikeout teams, is a lot of walks. That's dependent on umpires for strike calls there. And of course, framing and a bunch of other things. If you're throwing a lot of pitches, sometimes you're not going to hit the zone. That concerns me solely because of how good of an on-base team Schaumburg is for them. That's a tough matchup. We'll get more into matchups on the bonus pod, or maybe we already did if it's out. But regardless, it's a team that's going to really need to rely on the pitching, and the pitching staff's going to have to do a lot of work. Hopefully, if you're a Crushers fan, you can find enough offense to get you through game 1 and then drag into a pitcher's duel for the last 2. Because you drag them into a pitcher's duel, that's probably your only way of surviving. Looking at the other two teams in the West, Washington is a team that really was up and down all year. They capitalized on a late slump from Lake Erie to really make it in. Even then, they need some help to win that division and get them home field. They are certainly the weaker of the teams that are hosting, no doubt. But in any event, this is not a particularly gifted offensive team. They don't steal. Last in the league, 82 steals for them. But middle of the pack everywhere else, 8th in average, 8th in on base, 8th in slugging, 7th in total bases, 9th in runs scored. Pretty middle of the pack, pretty inoffensive there. Slightly above middle of the pack for all the pitching stats, 6 and 5s a lot for. And again, same concern there. It's almost like they're a better version of Lake Erie, which would make sense, seeing as they were slightly better than Lake Erie. I do have more confidence in this group. They went further in the postseason than most over the last few years, of course. So this is a group that knows what they're doing. This is a Tom Vates squad, so they should be able to perform here. But they certainly have their hands full in the matchup, and that matchup is going to be Gateway. We're going to talk about Gateway right now. This is middle of the pack everywhere. This team getting really hot, doing really well, then slumping, and then getting really hot again. When they're offensively inclined, they're going to score a lot of runs. They're tied for the third most in the leagues, over 600 on the season. They're going to get big hits. They're a slugging team. They hit 280 as a group too. That's always a nice thing to see as well. They're going to find ways to get on base. They're going to do things that are going to, create offense. Pitching wise, they hold their own, pretty comparable to their opponent pitching wise in just about every respect. Slightly better in some areas, slightly worse in others. It's really going to come down to who makes mistakes, I think, in the series. And ultimately, as you will hear when we get into matchup discussions, at some point, I think Gateway is most primed to make a deep run between those two, although they will have their hands full if they manage to get through Washington, because whoever waits on the other side is going to be certainly difficult for them. Looking at the East now, or the Atlantic rather, Quebec, what can we say? They're going for their 4th straight championship. It never felt like they were overwhelming at any point in the year, and yet they set their franchise record for wins with 67. They were 1 away from tying the Frontier League record, so 2 away from breaking that record. Less than 30 losses on the year. It's just incredible. They were top 2 in every major offensive category, exception, of course, being stolen bases. But if you're getting on base at a high clip and the guy behind you is a machine, then why bother, risking it to get to second when you feel pretty good about the guy behind you moving you over anyway? If you look at the pitching, first or second every major category. They strike a lot of guys out. They don't allow a lot of hits. They don't walk anybody. Less than 300 walks on the season there. It's incredible. 10 shutouts. I mean, a sub 3.8 as a team. For a down year Quebec team, and using that term very loosely, this is a unit of a team. Is a team that you never know what to expect out of it. Every year, it's like Charlie Brown the football, where they have a little swoon in July, a little bit to begin August, and you go, are they weak this time? Is this where they fall off? Is this where it goes to hell for Quebec? And then they pick it up the last 2 weeks of the season just to remind you that, no, we were pacing ourselves, and now it's time to run. And I expect to see it again this year. Betting against Quebec is a fool's errand. New York's going to try, though. As a group, they're going to hit. Part of the benefit of playing in Pomona is that it's a hitter-friendly ballpark. And they put up some runs. They weren't that far behind Quebec, to be quite honest. Only a 17-run difference there. Total bases, they hit home runs. They do that fairly well. They slug pretty good. So overall, not bad there. It's just the pitching has been a problem for them. They have an ERA over 5 as a group. They have a whip of nearly 1.6. They don't really strike guys out. They do walk a lot of guys, and they allow a lot of hits. It's going to be a tough hill battle for them, Quebec or otherwise. If you're letting guys tee off on you, you better be able to turn it into a foot race. And if you're not able to do that, I don't really see the path forward for New York. But hey, the fact they got in and beat out Ottawa does speak volumes. They had to get hot to win. And hey, as we said in the American Association preview, hot teams can do a lot of things. Like in the last 2 now, we'll go to Sussex here, a team that, frankly, I want to be higher on. I am proud for this team of what they managed to accomplish. This wasn't an overly impressive group going into the year, and we spent pretty much from the day that the divisions came out until fairly decently into the season saying this is New York's division to lose. Once New York snaps out of it, they're going to win this division. And instead, Sussex really took the reins early on, and while I don't believe they were wire to wire, they were certainly close, and they led more often than they were trailing in that division race. The issue here is that's a very broken team with injuries now. You don't have Maciel. You don't have Backstrom. You lost Still to the Tigers organization. These are all big pieces, not to mention the slew of injured pitchers that are there as well. It's tough sledding going against any of the other 3. We just saw them struggle against New York. Certainly Quebec would be a challenge, and certainly Tri-City will be a challenge for them. However, if they can manage to piece together their offense, they still do have guys like Robbie and Dom Johnson that can contribute. If D'Amato keeps it up, that's 3 guys there that could really be a threat here, and they still do hit for average. They still do have a little bit of pop in those bats, and they still can run too. So that will create some chaos and havoc there, and I do still think this pitching staff can piece it together. There are still guys. Tyler Thornton's capable of having a good start. Hensey can definitely put together a good start as well. It's 2. You need a 3rd, though, to get through this, so we'll see how it all comes together here, but this is a team that I really, really wish wouldn't have been so injured, and I think they would have given Tri-City a scare, but it's going to be a really uphill battle for them, given their current state. Looking over at Tri-City now, this is a sleeper team. They sleptwalked their way to 62 wins and looked very strong doing it. Pretty middle of the pack batting-wise, middle of the pack for steals, total bases, runs, but they slug pretty good and they get on base, so like, hey, what more can be said about that? Pitching wise too, they have some good arms that you just kind of sleep on there. And even some of the guys that we know are good, but just haven't pieced together this year, are still productive pieces in their lineup. They don't strike a lot of guys out, but they also don't really walk a lot of guys either. It seems like a very pitch to contact kind of team, which playing with fire against some better teams that hit the ball far. But hey, if it's weak contact's pretty damn good too. So overall, that's a Tri-City team that I think just kind of quietly goes about its business. I think last year was a very big learning experience for them. And it appears that we wrote Greg Taggart off a little prematurely. It looks like you just need to go to a group of younger guys to really be able to implement his system and get more buy-in, because that's certainly working here as the results are showing. So that will be a curious team to watch. Looking at the predictions real quick here, I do think Quebec ultimately will come out of the East and win another championship, win the 4th in a row. We mentioned a little bit ago that betting against them is a fool's errand, and I do think Tri-City is going to scare them. I think New York may have the possibility to steal a game or 2 and scare them a bit, but ultimately, Quebec's just a more dominant team. Schaumburg, on the flip side here, I think they're a flawed team, but a good enough team to get through Lake Erie and get through either Gateway or Washington. And for the record, I think it's going to wind up being Gateway. But I think in the end, they're going to be able to get through there, but it's going to be a quick 4-game set. Quebec doesn't die. That's kind of their MO. You can ask Ottawa for the last couple of years. You can ask Evansville how this went. You can even ask the Boomers themselves from a few years back. This is not a group that will lay down and die in any situation. The resiliency is something else. And the fact that I genuinely think they're a better team than everybody else in this league, I mean, they don't even need to be that resilient if you keep winning games. So ultimately, I do think the Capitals are the team to beat in the Frontier League this year. So we're going to have some really exciting baseball. We have 2 leagues simultaneously having postseasons. Pioneer League postseason right around the corner, and the Atlantic League's wrapping up too. So we're going to have some exciting races here to watch through the month of September. So be sure to stay tuned, stay focused, and don't forget to play ball.